A very good afternoon and welcome to Midday News on Rajya Sabha television, where we get you the biggest developing news stories at the top of one. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor and here are the headlines. Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping look to bridge a trust deficit as they meet for an informal summit in Wuhan today. No set agenda for meet aimed at opening strategic communication channel at the highest level. Korea leaders discuss denuclearization and permanent peace in the peninsula. Kim Jongun and Moon Jaein meet in historic first at the demilitarized zone. Kim, first North Korean leader on South Korean soil in 65 years. Last day for withdrawal of a candidature in the Karnataka polls today. BJP President Amit Shah campaigns in north of the state. Congress promises 1 crore jobs in 5 years in its election manifesto. Centre moves the Supreme Court for early hearing of its review plea of the court's verdict on the SC/ST Act. Court to hear plea on 3rd of May. Union Minister Thawar Chand Gehlot says the centre will bring ordinance if the verdict is not in its favour. And senior advocate Indu Malhotra takes oath as Supreme Court judge. First woman lawyer to enter top judiciary directly. Strength of the apex court now at 25. Our top focus is Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping's holding informal summit talks. All right, so Prime Minister Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping will be holding informal summit talks in Wuhan in China today. The two leaders will hold a one-on-one conversation focusing on global, regional and bilateral issues. The attempt on both sides would be to bridge the trust deficit post the Doklam standoff. These are the live visuals that we are getting from Wuhan in China. So the meeting is slated to take place in a short while from now. Interestingly, there is no set agenda for the meeting and no formal announcements are expected. The idea for the meeting is to open strategic communication channel at the highest level between the two nations. Well ahead of the meeting, Prime Minister Modi had said that he and President Xi will review the developments in Sino-India relations from a strategic and long-term perspective. China's state media said that the informal Xi-Modi meeting heralds a new chapter in Sino-India relations. This is Prime Minister Modi's fourth visit to China after coming to power in 2014. He is again due to visit China to take part in the SCO summit that will be held in the month of June in Qingdao city. So these are the live visuals that we are getting from Wuhan city in China, where the talks between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping will take place in a short while from now. These are slated to be informal summit talks. And among today's program for the two leaders is the first meeting at the Hubei Provincial Museum that is ongoing at the moment. And after touring the museum for about an hour, the two leaders, accompanied by 6 top officials from each side, will hold talks at the sprawling East Lake Guest House, where President Xi is staying. Now, this will be followed by the leaders' walk. And then dinner will be hosted by Chinese President Xi at the guest house in central Wuhan. And on Saturday, that is tomorrow, the two leaders will have an opportunity to spend time without their aides. Xi and Modi will go for a lakeside walk and a boat ride on the picturesque East Lake. And this will be followed by a private lunch which will be hosted by Chinese President Xi Jinping. All right, so it has been called a heart-to-heart informal meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi. And this meeting is likely to chart a new course for India-China relations. In fact, the Chinese state media has went to the extent of saying that this meeting heralds a new chapter in Sino-India relations. Of course, apart from that meeting, Prime Minister Modi's itinerary also includes a tour of one of China's best-known museum that will be happening. In fact, Prime Minister Modi there will be touring the museum. All right, let's get a perspective on the story. Mr. Shashank, former Foreign Secretary, is now joining us on the phone line for more. Very good afternoon, sir. Well, it has been called a heart-to-heart informal meeting between PM Modi and President Xi, and it is likely to chart a new course for India-China relations. In fact, the Chinese state media even going to the extent of saying that it heralds a new chapter in Sino-India relations. So how do you look at the developments?
Yes, I think this is really important that the two leaders meet together and try to work out a relationship between our two countries, which is important for not only for the two countries, also for Asia and the world. A lot of things are changing currently in Asia, and which will have a deep impact on the security environment in the region. And therefore, India and China have an obligation to work together and to improve their relations. Also to discuss international issues like climate change, world trade issues, infrastructure connectivity, etc.
And Sir, Prime Minister Modi, before departing for China last evening, had said that the two leaders will discuss our respective visions and the priorities for national development. What would you make of that statement?
Well, that is because they have Chinese have already set out their perspective that by 2050 they will become #1 economic and military power in the world. India also has their perspectives. So this is also working well, and we need to exchange views on these subjects.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this afternoon and sharing your perspective so that we can see the visuals there. Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping there shaking hands. Of course, the informal heart-to-heart summit that it is called will happen in a short while from now. Of course, we'll keep getting you all the updates there. And let us go to the other big story of the day, and that is the Korea Peace Summit. All right, so North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and South Korean President Moon Jae-in met in a historic visit, first in the demilitarized zone between the two countries. And according to South Korea, the two leaders had a sincere and a frank dialogue on denuclearization and permanent peace in the peninsula. The summit held at the Peace House was only the third between the leaders of the two sides since 1953. There was also a symbolic planting of a pine tree in the demilitarized zone. Well, Kim Jong-un became the first North Korean leader to set foot on South Korean soil in 65 years. Kim Jong-un told the South Korean president that he would be willing to visit the presidential Blue House in Seoul and wanted to meet more often in the future. The two leaders will resume their talks post-lunch and wrap up the evening with a dinner.
많이 기대하셨던 분들한테 물론 이제 시작에 빙산 일각에 지나지 않지만 이 우리 첫 만남과 오늘 이야기된 이게 이제 발표되고 하면 기대하셨던 분들한테 조금이나마 그 기대를 만족을 드렸으면 하는 그런 바람입니다.
아주 오늘 좋은 논의들을 많이 이루어서 아주 우리 또 남북의 국민들에게 그리고 또 전 세계 사람들에게 아주 좋은 선물이 될 것 같습니다.
김 위원장은 대결의 역사에 종지부를 찍자고 왔고 우리 사이에 걸리는 문제들에 대해 대통령님과 무릎을 맞대고 풀려고 왔다. 김 위원장은 이제 자주 만나자. 이제 마음 단단히 굳게 먹고 다시 원점으로 오는 일이 없어야겠다.
Well, the leaders from the two sides have met only twice before, in the year 2000 and in 2007. And today's meeting was historic and symbolic. Here is a report. A historic summit. The leaders of North and South Korea meeting for the first time in more than a decade at the demilitarized zone that divides the two nations. It was a day in the spotlight as much of their meeting was broadcast live on TV. The first visuals being both the leaders and their entourages moving towards the border. South Korean President Moon Jae-in left early morning from the Blue House in Seoul, waving to his supporters. Thereafter driving to the border, followed by the world's TV cameras and helicopters. He went over the Unification Bridge and thereafter inside the demilitarized zone, the DMZ. And then the historic moment. The two leaders come face to face. Kim Jong-un and Moon shaking hands. First, Kim stepped into South Korean soil, and then Moon briefly steps over the border back into North Korea with him. Handshakes on both sides of the border. Expectedly, there were smiles and cheers all around. Kim Jong-un also became the first North Korean leader to cross the line dividing the two Koreas since fighting ended in the Korean War 65 years ago. The leaders met by an honor guard in traditional costume on the South Korean side. They posed with children, saluted the anthems and walked along the red carpet to inspect troops. Moon also shook hands with Kim's sister, Kim Yo-jong. Thereafter, the leaders proceeded inside the Peace House. The talks take place in Panmunjom, the place where the Korean War armistice was signed. Ever since, it has been a crucial venue for inter-Korean talks. The Peace Village sits in the no-man's land of the DMZ. Kim first signed the guest book, with Moon politely standing alongside. The meeting between Kim Jong-un and Moon Jae-in comes after North Korean leader said in January this year that his country wanted to take part in South Korean Olympics. The talks that followed led to the plans for this inter-Korean summit, and this meeting today comes ahead of the much-anticipated meeting between Kim Jong-un and US President Donald Trump later this year. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. And just a short while back, there was also a symbolic planting of a pine tree on the military demarcation line by the two leaders. And after that, they resumed their talks post-lunch. So the talks are ongoing at the moment, and these are the visuals of a little while back where there was a symbolic planting of a tree on the military demarcation line by the two leaders. And meanwhile, the US has voiced a hope that the historic summit will achieve progress towards a future of peace and prosperity for the entire Korean peninsula. White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said that the US looks forward to continuing robust discussions in preparation for the planned meeting between US President Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un in the coming weeks. And now let's get back home and get you the latest from Karnataka, where assembly elections are due. Well, today is the last date for the withdrawal of candidature in Karnataka, and over 3,900 nominations were received for 224 seats in Karnataka election, for which will take place on 12th of May in a single phase. Filing of nominations for the Karnataka Legislative Assembly election ended on Tuesday, with over 1,700 nominations filed on the last day. Remember, counting of votes will be on 15th of May. And Rahul Gandhi released his party's election manifesto for Karnataka today in Mangaluru, and Congress has promised 1 crore jobs in the next 5 years if the party returns to power. Rahul Gandhi described the manifesto as the voice of the people of Karnataka. The BJP, however, has called the manifesto a failed document.
Karnataka builds a competitor to Silicon Valley. It shows the country that this is the way forward. Karnataka respects everybody. Karnataka carries everybody together. It gives a message to the people of India. And I would like to thank the people of Karnataka with all my heart that in this difficult time, not only in India, in the whole world, that your confidence, your dignity and your humility is showing the country the path forward.
राहुल जी से सवाल यह है कि राहुल जी, यदि 5 वर्षों तक सिद्धरमैया सरकार ने कर्नाटका में उचित शासन या गवर्नेंस किया होता तो आज आपके पास ऐसे कोई पॉइंट्स होते कि आपने क्या अचीवमेंट किया। आपने अपने अचीवमेंट के बारे में एक भी शब्द नहीं बताया और केवल भाजपा के ऊपर आक्रमण करते रहे। ये दिखाता है कि कहीं ना कहीं कांग्रेस पार्टी पूरी तरह से फेल रही है कर्नाटका के गवर्नेंस को लेकर।
All right, let's get more details on the story. My colleague Rajat Ken is now joining us live from Mangaluru. Rajat, Rahul Gandhi there released his party's manifesto in Mangaluru today. Interestingly, he calls it the Karnataka's Man Ki Baat. So tell us more about the manifesto.
Well, Aishwarya, the poll card has just begun and it will now stop on the 15th of May when the results are declared. The four dramatis persona in this election, Prime Minister Modi, BJP President Amit Shah, Congress President Rahul Gandhi and the State Chief Minister Siddaramaiah are on the field. Like yesterday, there was an intense campaigning from both the camps. Today, Rahul Gandhi released manifesto attacking the BJP, at the same time calling the manifesto of Congress Party as the Man Ki Baat, or the voice of people of Karnataka. Now, interestingly, he has promised 1 crore job in next 5 years if voted to power. Also, at the same time, what I found interesting was Siddaramaiah saying that there is no anti-incumbency. Now, this is quite contrary to what the electoral record of the state says. Ever since the mid-80s, which makes it nearly last 30 years, no government has been repeated. Yet, Siddaramaiah is confident that the Congress will come back to power. I asked this question before the Congress spokesperson, and he also gave a litany of Congress's achievements in the state. At the same time, all these things will be put to test when the people of Karnataka will go to cast their vote to elect its next assembly. There are, if talking about the coastal area which I'm following, which include 3 districts of Uttar Kannada, Dakshin Kannada and Udupi, there are issues like water shortage. It may sound a little difficult to believe, but I mean, in the coastal area of Karnataka is having a water shortage. Secondly, there are issues concerning the fishermen. These community have thrown their weight behind the Congress last time around, which has given them surprising results. Coastal Karnataka has been a BJP stronghold, yet Congress managed to win 13 seats out of 19 last time around. So this time, there is an intense contest between these two parties, mainly in the coastal Karnataka, whereas JDS is a player in southern Karnataka. So clearly, as I said, the electoral card has begun, and only on the May 15th, we will see the results of all these claims. Aishwarya.
Right. Thank you so much, Rajat, for all those updates there from Mangaluru. And earlier, Rajat Ken was in Udupi district, from where he has sent us the special report. Well, Udupi, a traditional bipolar contest seat, is set to have a keen contest between the heavyweights of the Congress and the BJP. Now, while the entry of Shirur Mutt may have made the contest interesting, it is the local issues concerning jobs, water and tourism that may play a crucial role. Here is a report.
The busy coastal town, known for its fishing community, popular cuisine and temples, is witnessing an intense battle between the Congress and the BJP. Congress's local MLA Pramod Madhavraj is in straight contest with the BJP heavyweight Raghupati Bhatt, whose absence in 2013 led to the perception that Madhavraj had an easy win. This time, local issues like water shortage and spike in construction are in focus.
Water is a major issue here, must say that. And the kind of water problem we faced 2 years, 5 years before to what we are facing today is totally very disastrous. So, rainwater harvestment, sustainable rain harvesting is not happening the way it should.
It is not just water shortage. There are also issues of lack of sufficient job opportunities and development of tourism.
Initiatives by the government, overall Karnataka has not done. Honestly, Karnataka has not explored the way it should have about the tourism. So we largely fail in seeing any such such kind of infrastructural development.
But Madhav Raj defends the record of his government in office.
There is CRZ Act, Coastal Regulation Zone Act. In 2011, when the new notification came, the then state government was headed by BJP. They never bothered to send any proposals to develop tourism in Karnataka. Goa state sent the proposal, Kerala state sent the proposal, but no proposal from Karnataka. So, in order to encourage beach tourism, Kerala and Goa have been given special relaxations. Because of the impediment caused by the CRZ Act, the beach tourism has not fully developed in the coastal Karnataka.
However, one more element has made this election interesting: the entry of Shirur Mutt. It is for the first time in Udupi that a mutt has entered the elections. Lakshmi Varatirtha Swami of the popular mutt has decided to contest the polls. Though he was vying for a BJP ticket, Lakshmi Varaswamy will be contesting as an independent.
I feel strongly that there will be a contest between either a BJP or a Congress. I don't see any other party or any other... no, I don't think so.
While the entry of Shirur Mutt may be keenly observed by the analysts, but its factors like impact of construction, water shortage, and lack of sufficient job opportunities that may play a role when this serene and picturesque town vote to elect its next MLA. With camera person MS Suresh in Udupi, Rajat Kane for Rajya Sabha TV.
On to some other news now. The centre has moved the Supreme Court to seeking an early hearing on its plea seeking review of its SC/ST Act verdict. The Supreme Court has agreed to the Attorney General's request seeking an early hearing, and it has said that it will hear the review plea on 3rd of May. Earlier on Thursday, Union Minister for Social Justice Thawar Chand Gehlot had said that if the Supreme Court's decision on the review petition did not go in the government's favour, it will issue an ordinance. And senior advocate Indu Malhotra became the first woman lawyer to enter the top judiciary directly today. Malhotra was administered the oath of office as a Supreme Court judge by Chief Justice of India Deepak Mishra. 61-year-old Malhotra's name, cleared by the government, was one of the two recommended by the Collegium to be elevated to the Apex Court bench. Her name was approved by the SC Collegium on 10th of January with a resolution saying that she is eminently suitable for the elevation. Malhotra is only the 7th woman judge in the top court since independence. While other women top judges were elevated to the Apex Court from high courts, Malhotra is the first woman judge to be appointed to the top post directly from the bar. Now, news from the United States, where Mike Pompeo has been sworn in as the new U.S. Secretary of State. Pompeo was confirmed by a vote of 57 to 42 in the Republican-controlled Senate, and like Donald Trump's previous nominee, Pompeo was confirmed by a relatively narrow margin. Pompeo is already deeply involved in diplomacy. Trump had sent him to North Korea 3 weeks ago to meet with the country's leader Kim Jong-un ahead of a summit with the U.S. president to address Pyongyang's nuclear program. And moments after Pompeo was sworn in, the former CIA director set off immediately on a trip to meet key allies in Europe and the Middle East. The State Department said that he would visit Saudi Arabia, Jordan and Israel during the weekend after attending a NATO meeting on Friday in Brussels. And on to some sports news now. Top Indian shuttlers Saina Nehwal, PV Sindhu, Kidambi Srikanth and HS Pranoy have entered the singles quarterfinals of the Asia Badminton Championships. Saina Nehwal outwitted China's Gao Fangji in a 40-minute clash. She will now face unseeded Korean Lee Jang-mi. Third seed Sindhu also registered a commanding win over another Chinese, Chen Xianxin. And Srikanth advanced when his opponent, Hong Kong's Wong Wing Ki Winsett, retired at 2-7 in the first game to hand over the quarterfinal spot to the Indian. And HS Pranoy bounced back from a game down to overcome Chinese Taipei's Wang Tzu Wei in 3 games. He will now meet second seed Song Wan Ho of Korea. And that's it in this edition of Midday News. Thanks so much for watching.